Have you ever had a friendship that was really good and then something went wrong and the whole thing fell apart? Well, today we're going to look at 10 characteristics of real friendship. Welcome to the Steps and Tools podcast. I'm Dr. Greg Hamlin, and I want to share with you very quickly 10 characteristics of what I believe make up a real and lasting and strong and satisfying friendship. Number one, real friendships have shared experiences and they have shared benefits. You often hear people say things like, I don't have to explain myself, because you have a common history. You have some things you've been through together. And by been through, I mean you've shared some experiences. You've done some activities together, or even some of those shared experiences are simply good conversations. But you've been through some things together. Maybe you worked at the same job at one point, or your kids were on the same soccer team. It can be a lot of different connecting points, but you have some shared experiences that form a kind of glue to bring you together, even when those experiences go away. And it's the memory of those experiences that becomes part of the memory banks of your friendship. A second characteristic of real friendship is sometimes called cognitive room. And by cognitive room means that you have space in your head for the details and the ups and downs of another person's life. You think about it, you give it some thought, and it seems valuable to you to think about it. It seems worthwhile. And you have a sense yourself that you are valued by the other person because they have space in their head for you. They know something about you. They have some knowledge. And that leads to the third characteristic, which is what I call tracking. Most good friendships have some element of tracking where there's ongoing discussions about the ongoing stories that are unfolding in your life. You know, maybe you get together and you talk about what's happening with that project you've been working on for so long. Whatever happened to such and such? How are you doing since your father died? There's ongoing stories for each of us, and when you have a good friendship, the other person is interested in knowing. Now, sometimes not everybody's very good at asking questions, and sometimes the friendship will be where each person volunteers that information, but the other one is still interested in getting the ongoing story, even if they don't always ask the right questions. A fourth characteristic is that there are habits of connection in good friendships. That means there's some kind of ritual of time and space where they actually get together. It doesn't all take place on social media. This is where Facebook friendships, really are limited, and where you make space in your schedule to get together with a person, to somehow rendezvous with them, connect with them. It might be a shared activity. Some people are just much better at just doing things together, and conversation sort of happens along the way. Other people, they like to get together for coffee or lunch, and the purpose is to talk. But there has to be some kind of some sort of habits, and the habits might be once a year or once every 3 months. They don't necessarily have to be very frequent, but they're real. A fifth characteristic of good friendships is that there's some kind of shared vantage point on at least one aspect of life. Maybe you're both in the same department at a company, or maybe you're both teachers, or you both have had something where you've been in the trenches together and seen either the place of work or you've seen family. I made a lot of friends when my kids were in sports, and there's this somewhat similar vantage point of just being a parent and what that does to you to help you connect with other people who are, in that same struggle. A sixth characteristic of real friendships is trust. And by trust, what I mean by that is it's the sense that he or she has my back. That if if my friend were talking about me with other people and I weren't around, they wouldn't throw me under the bus. Um, there's a sense that they're for me, even if even if we're in a stage temporarily where we're having some conflict or whatever. There's there's an underlying trust that this person has my back. It's a sense of he's there for me or she's there for me. The seventh characteristic is a growing sense of ease in being yourself. It's this aspect of vulnerability where you just really don't have to work that hard at showing the person who you are. We all have a, a somewhat of a discrepancy between our public persona, kind of how we present ourselves with strangers, and then how we let our hair down and how we show ourselves when we're completely relaxed and not, executing some role or some responsibility. Now, a little tangent here is that I think that where it's a lot less stressful to live authentically, where you have the smallest possible gap between your public persona and your private way that you are when you're not trying very hard. But with friendship, you have a certain ease that you can be yourself and it feels okay. You feel accepted by the other person. Sometimes you'll hear people say, I met this person and we just clicked. So that's kind of that same idea of this ease of being yourself. And it may start out very small, but it's a sense that it's growing over time. And that's one of the characteristics of a good friendship, is that it grows over time. An eighth characteristic is that there's genuine caring. And that means that you matter to that other person and they matter to you. And the friendship itself, the relationship matters. And it's not based on fear. In other words, it's not based on, well, if I need to do something I need to perform a function for this person so that they will like me. That's a very immature form of friendship. Some friendships get started that way, but as a friendship grows, it really is in for some problems and disappointments if it stays on that level. It shouldn't be based on fear. It shouldn't be based on function. It needs to be based on just the fact that this person matters to you. And number 9 is that real friendship tends to be resilient in conflict. Now, this definitely requires a little explanation because, when you're getting to know someone or in a new friendship, you really can't, the relationship won't bear too much conflict because that'll end up just making you go your separate ways. And on the other end of the spectrum, a friendship that you've had for many years, that's gone through some tough times and weathered some storms, you have a sense that the relationship is strong enough to survive some disagreements and even some disappointments where you actually disappoint the other person or they really disappoint you. Maybe even some minor betrayals where you feel like they really left you high and dry, but your friendship can survive that and you can find a way to patch it up, to heal it, get it on the right track again. But a real friendship, while it might not have this perfect resilience of bouncing back in conflict, it needs to be growing over time, and good friends have a sense that is intact and it's growing. And finally, the 10th characteristic of a real friendship is what I call reciprocity. And that is that it goes both ways. It isn't about just one person getting their needs met and the other one serving them. There's a give and take of airtime in terms of conversation and listening, who's talking, who's listening. There's an equal give and take about initiating times to get together and responding to those initiations. Sometimes one person initiates, another time someone else initiates. Now, a big exception to that is what I call the mentoring friendship. And I'll be speaking about that in a future episode. But these are 10. They're not the only characteristics of real friendship, but these are 10 important characteristics. And I think to put these in perspective, we need to point out that not every good friendship has all of these, and not every good friendship has all of these in great quantities. But it's a good framework to keep in mind when you're kind of looking at, is this really a good, healthy friendship for me? Is this really working? Am I doing all the giving? Am I doing all the taking? Does this person even have room in their head, space in their head for me? And do I have space in my head for them? So it forms a bit of a checklist to go through and say, are these qualities growing over time? And you could have very few of them, and they could be somewhat weak. But if they're growing, especially in a new friendship, that's good enough. If it's a long-standing friendship and these things are just kind of falling apart, then that might tell you something too. Hope that you enjoyed these 10 characteristics of real friendship. I'm Dr. Greg Hamlin. Thank you for listening.